Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Alcott channel. I am at Ibrox and I'm with Lawrence McKenna. That's nice, you should do that in the future for all videos.
Yeah, they couldn't see never mind.
Yeah, you fit.
Happy about that.
Well, zip up.
Yeah. Well, happy about the result. Was happy about the performance.
7-1 to Liverpool, really odd game.
Yeah, really. Yeah, like I think at the end when we were sat there, it was. Obviously we couldn't celebrate because we were mixed in with Rangers fans, but
and I was supporting Rangers.
But it was also just very strange because I literally turned to him and went, that wasn't a 7-1, was it?
No.
And it didn't feel. Liverpool, when they celebrated their goals, didn't feel like it was that. It felt like a bit of the players were a bit like, okay, all right, we're sort of finding our feet again. Okay, good, score a goal, but what does it really mean? And I know it's a weird thing to say. The whole thing that sat over this game was the foreboding fixture of City on the weekend.
Was it? Was that on your mind?
That's what felt for me. And when I saw Klopp at the end, and you could see, and I'm sort of skipping ahead a bit, when you saw Klopp at the end, he was sort of walking over, almost like sort of carrying himself over. Like normally he kind of floats over into the game. He almost looks like a jacket, like floating around. In this, it was a bit more like, okay, you guys go and do the celebration with the fans, but it's not my time yet to celebrate with the fans. I don't feel that we're there yet. And you could sort of see that, and the fans said that, ready for the fist bumps. Didn't come. So you can still see he's not happy. And I wouldn't be happy with that performance if I was him, because there's a lot to tear up.
We'll talk about that, because you made a good point when you were saying, we were talking about the sort of the mix of, you make loads, of performances and results. But before we get into that, first of all, BT Sport have sent us to these two games, and it's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, they're the home of European football on here. They've got the Champions League, they've got Europa League, they've got it all, and it's all exclusive on BT Sport. Exactly. It's a great app, but it's also a great service to sign up for elsewhere, so head over there and do that. Thanks to them for bringing both of us. Yeah,
it's been really, really good. And when we talk about Rangers, you can't help but obviously compare when we've had two nights where we've watched Celtic in the Champions League, we've then watched Rangers, and then you then can almost, to a point, obviously in Europe, judge Scottish football in terms of those two titans, right? And I think the bottom line for both of them, and it sounds really easy, but that the energy, the desire, what the fans bring, the roar at both games, and I've got to say, the roar at Ibrox when that goal went in, that was the one thing I was desperate for from this trip. Got that goal, and obviously a goal that went into the lead, and that's the difference when you say the Celtic game. Celtic passed the ball far better, and far better it felt like from an attacking standpoint than Rangers, but Rangers got the goal. And so that's the starting point, isn't it? But you looked at the clock, it was 18 minutes I think when a goal went in, and you thought, yes, Liverpool are off, and they continued to be off. They played in this quite narrow formation. Carvalho, Harvey Elliott and Firmino.
3 10s really, but really 2 10s and a deep 9 or a false 9.
And Darwin Núñez was off, really, really off.
Couldn't hold the ball up. And I know a few people are going to pick out he had a few good passes and
scored the
goal.
There
was this bit here.
Good finish, wasn't it?
Third goal, and I think at that point it was almost like when Liverpool went 2 and up, it was a bit like, all right, we've lost this one. Didn't feel like Rangers really thought, after we scored that first one, we're going to go on and score another and another. Apart from the 5 minutes after that goal. So when Núñez scored, it was very much like, it was nice. It was a good moment. And you could see the Liverpool fans trying to encourage him, and you could see that the players will go over and Van Dijk's got his arm around him, and there's he really feeds off the leaders But it's not empty, but I'm looking for another word for how it feels when Liverpool score at the moment, because that feeling of when Liverpool scored last year was, this is right, we are going somewhere with this. Yeah. Whereas when they score now, it's sort of like, okay, well, to what end is this? Is this to the end of going through in the Champions League? Because if we play a good team, will we get beaten? If we're climbing up the league? But I think the thing that everyone's got to remember is it's about building that little bit of momentum and little weird wins within there. What people don't want to do is get too far ahead of themselves.
Well, absolutely, and that feeling's coming from getting too ahead of yourselves.
Yeah, because from those few games where we were a little bit better.
And so focusing on this, I think, as I say, look, at 1-1, we're having a chat at half-time going, you're right to be nervous about this game. The crowd were involved, and the team were, like, Lundstrom was sitting there. I didn't feel like he really had the quality. Going forward, there were moments, Fashion on the right wing, I thought had moments with Shimikas, who I'm not totally convinced on, certainly defensively.
Beaten for pace, didn't he?
Yeah, but overall, it felt like they were off, and you were just waiting for the quality to shine through. And also, as the game progressed,
and as the centre back went off, their number 6,
huge Goldson went off. I think that was a huge. He's so important for them in terms of experience. Leon King came on, didn't do terribly, but again, when you think of the substitutes, Thiago comes on, Jota comes on, Salah comes on, and
That's
for Rangers,
hat-trick.
I think it was like Scott Wright came on, Matunda. It's different. It's very, very different, and that is the chasm that they're going to have to deal with, Rangers. As we said, let's talk performance more so than the result, because they didn't quit, Rangers, but they did give up a little bit, and it was Thiago ran it when he came on, just played the ball quicker. Salah was in the mood and played in that position up front in the central.
So funny, isn't it? You put him in the middle, and suddenly it's like goal. Like, that's mad to see. Considering that he's been not farmed out, he's played he's actually,
Is that the future in? Is that an option to play him through the middle?
An option, but I just feel that there's a problem with it's really about where does Salah, the Harvey Elliott element of that. Is he a winger? Would you do that against City necessarily? Yeah. Is it really that what Liverpool knew they were playing tonight was going to be not the standard, and I'm meaning this in the most respectful way, but not the standard of Man City? No. And they knew that there was going to be holes, there was going to be a way that they could outnumber and overload a lot of areas. And really, when a lot of these goals didn't come from it being 4-2-3-1 or 4-2-4, a lot of it came from, right, we're just overloading these guys, loads of spaces in there, and really Liverpool just going, well, that's the space, there's the goal. And Salah had so much time on the ball for a second, he sort of scooped it past the goalkeeper, and the third one just seemed so easy. So what I mean by that is, I think you're right in what you're saying, but I also think Klopp sort of went, there's goals to be gotten out, you go, get a couple in the Champions League, and you could be top scorer at the end of the season.
And for Rangers, the concentration levels have to be so high that does drain you. And I think in the second half of the game, when you make those changes with players that do things quickly, then that's going to make life really, really difficult. Man of the match for me, definitely Firmino. I thought he was fantastic in the game. Always wanted the ball.
Yeah, he had a really good performance.
I love a heat map, and I was looking at them. Yeah. He was on the ball absolutely everywhere. What I thought was interesting was that him and Carvalho picking up the ball all over that front line, and with Man City in the distance, Diaz, is he going to be fit?
No.
Arnold, is he going to be fit?
No.
So with that in mind,
Diaz is out now, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my question for the comments, guys. Do you start with Núñez, who I don't think is totally there right now? Do you start with him, or with Salah as a player on the counter attack? Do you start him through the middle in a game like this with Firmino in the form that he's in as well?
With Firmino there, and then the 2-10s or the 3-10s just behind. Okay.
And Gomez is a bit more chilled out. Robertson as a left-sided player who provides that width and gets on that little bit more.
Do you know who you really have to start? I thought he was fantastic today, but he's not had good big games in recent years. Is Fabinho.
Yeah.
I thought Fabinho, quick distribution, smart. Hendo was a much more solid player in this game. I felt like he was more about driving forward, sitting down. Yeah, he was close to a 7. But he wasn't quite there. But it was a solid performance from him. And then Fabinho just break it up, distribute, and he was so good. There was little passes. He was more of a playmaker. He was doing more of like what we thought we were going to get when he came from Monaco. Do you know what I mean? We knew we were getting a deep liar, but we also thought, well, look at what we might get here. He's a good passer. He's give and go, one touch, like 1-2 touch stuff, 1-2s all over the field. Always the option for someone else. That's what you want, especially when you're only playing 2 in the midfield. Right. You want someone who's going to make up for that third space. Yep. So I think you're right. Firmino was the other guy who dropped deep, but he was the man of the match. But Fabinho has to play against City. Yeah,
the one that you were saying, filling in those places. The one that I am a little bit concerned if I was a Liverpool fan, would be that in transition when you think of that box.
Yeah.
In the first half, Rangers did, and that's where the kind of goal came from. It feels a little bit too easy at this moment in time.
Absolutely.
And you would imagine, like, going from Rangers to Man City is a huge jump.
There's also a huge issue with Liverpool's spacing along the back line, be that the full back to the centre back to centre back, or vice versa. And you can't quite work out what the right place for Virgil is and what the right place for Kanté is, or any of these guys. The big issue for me is City are obviously going to attack half space. Like Haaland's going to have a field day if they play like that. And I get a 7-1 result is great, and that's really good for morale. But if you then go to City and that gets reversed, or it's not great the other way,
7-1.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go up, down, up, down, up, down. And at the same time, I think if Liverpool play this way against City still win it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. Rangers pretty much out now, obviously. I think they kind of were before that, and even the Europa League is going to be tough for them. Rangers fans, let me know how you're feeling about the team, the squad, the quality when it comes to the Champions League. Liverpool fans, despite being 7-1, are there still question marks? I think there definitely are, but which one is the biggest question mark? That's what I'd love to know
question,
in the comments down below.
The Riddler over here.
Massive thank you to BT Sport, and Yeah, it's time to go home, isn't it?
James Alcott.
Subscribe, hit the like button, check out Loz's video as well, and goodbye.